Hello. We are live.
Hello.
Hey, I'm Everton. I'm responsible for developer relations here at CrazyGames. Here are my colleagues. My colleague Dom, he's responsible for web games advocate. And we are joined also with Björn from Defold team. If you guys want to give a quick introduction about you guys.
Hi, yep, I'm Dom. I have been making games for 20 years now. I've done, well, my 100th game jam was in 2021. I kind of stopped counting after that, so...
That's impressive. Yeah, I haven't participated in as many game jams for sure. My name is Björn. I work with the Defold Foundation. I'm a developer. I usually have the product owner title as well, the guy keeping track of all of the features we develop. I've worked with Defold for 10 plus years, and I've been a developer for 25 or 30 years, maybe.
Amazing. Well, welcome everybody to the warm-up, to our official game jam starting this Friday. I think we can get started already. All right. Oh, I'm controlling it, so sorry. All right. So, well, this is a warm-up, so we're going to talk a little bit about how to be successful on the game jam, a little bit of what you need to know, some specific technical things. We can get into that as well. Please make sure to use the YouTube comment section for any questions that you guys might have. Quick information, as I already said, the jam starts this Friday, so register immediately if you haven't done that yet. We have a link here on the description of this video. There you can also find the links to our Discord channel, how to start preparing and everything. We just noticed that the YouTube chat is disabled, but we are going to enable it very soon, a little bit later on. We will also be providing live support on Discord during the jam. And there is also an email that you can send if you're not using Discord for any reason. On the Jammers manual that you can find also on the Jam page, you can find an email to ask for support if you need anything during that. So the Jam is starting Friday at 4 p.m. with the announcement of the theme. We are really looking forward to this. We are preparing this Jam for quite a while. Talked with Björn quite some time ago, working on the SDK, getting everything ready for the jam. And yeah, the most important thing is that we're looking for having fun doing this jam. You know, we're looking for engaging with the community, helping everybody out, and really looking forward to playing everybody's games. Let me start a little bit already with talking a little bit about game jams. We have some topics that we think are really important to discuss when we are working on a game jam, especially a game jam with a very tight schedule. You know, the jam is starting on Friday at 4 p.m. As we said, and it's ending on Sunday at midnight CEST European time. So you have a little bit more than 2 days, nearly 3 days, to prepare everything, scope, think about the theme, prepare a game that fits the theme. And if you haven't played with Defold yet, worked with Defold yet, well, it's already late. Start right now, download. We have also some tutorials in the documentation on the website. We also have those documentations on the Discord channel. I think Björn can also help you finding any templates and things like that to get you started. All right, so yeah, the chat. Let's save. All right, well, I think we can start with the first topic, creativity under pressure. I have a few things to talk about that, but I'll let Dom take the stage a little bit and then talk about this. Dom has way more experience with game jams than I do, so please.
Yeah, so the big thing really with a game jam is to scope small. That means make the smallest game idea you can. You don't have a lot of time for this. There's a popular talk that a guy called Lamy Ismail did, where he says if you've got a 48-hour jam, your first 4 hours should be making the mechanics of the game, and your second 44 hours should be about kind of adding content and polishing that up. I think that's a bit strict. That's probably a bit too far, but the kind of core concept is right. You want to make something you feel like you can make in a few hours, because you're going to take a lot longer than a few hours to make it. That's just how game jams go. And that
games in general.
Yeah, that feels quite tight, but as the kind of headline for this section, creativity under pressure, goes, you can actually make some quite fun things in such a short amount of time. So a lot of the jams that I did were an hour or less. So you really can squeeze quite a lot into that short time. Don't worry if you get stuck. You can essentially, if you're stuck and can't work out what to do with a theme or anything like that, the best thing to do is just jump into the engine, make a menu, add some sound settings, that sort of thing. You just start, and from
work
there
with
you
something,
kind of,
right?
Exactly, yeah. And then you can kind of go from there, and you can redesign it towards the end of the jam or whatever. But the kind of just start, I think, is really important. It doesn't even matter if you don't have an idea.
Definitely. I've also thought about the snackable kind of games, making it very, very short, try to make the prototype in really just a few hours. I was playing with Defold last week, actually, and it's amazing how far you can get in just a few hours, really. Especially, I remember just clicking the Control B and playing your game in a few seconds was amazing. I think that can really help people with this tight schedule, rather than having to wait for a very long build, right? Like other engines.
Yeah, exactly. And on the kind of snackable games, I think the best thing to do, you don't have to do it, obviously, but the best thing to do is kind of pick one mechanic, one thing you're really excited for, and build the game around that. So, that could be you're making a platformer and you want a grappling hook, and the grappling hook is your mechanic, and you kind of build the game around that. And every time you want to add something, kind of evaluate against that. So kind of think, does this thing that I'm adding, or does this thing that I want to add, does it increase the fun of the core mechanic? So that grappling hook in the example, that way you are kind of keeping your focus on one thing, and you're not kind of spreading yourself too thin. So that's essentially how all of the games that I made in under an hour, that's how that went. It was just one mechanic. What can I do? That sounds fun. Let's go for it. Don't worry about doing things wrong. The worst thing you can do is get into kind of a loop where you think, I don't know if this is going to work, or something like that. Like, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't quite know how to do that. Just start, just do it. And it doesn't really matter if it's not the best thing in the world. You're making a game in a weekend. It's not going to be the best thing in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't try to make the next I don't know, the next fortnight, you know.
Yeah.
He's trying to make something short and fun, and having fun in the process. I think it's super important.
Exactly. Yeah,
Don't
you're not
burn out. That don't work without sleeping.
Yes,
It's short,
yes.
but you have time to do everything.
Yes, and kind of you can work around the hours that you have. So don't think I've got how many hours is this jam? It's a little over 48 hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
But don't think I've got this many hours. What can I do in this many hours? Because you also need to sleep. You also need to eat. You're going to want to go for a walk because a lot of the time you'll be stuck on one problem for ages. You'll go for a walk and immediately the answer will come to you when you sit back down again. So look after yourself, essentially. Sleep, eat, like don't just live on energy drinks and pizza. You will do better work if you look after yourself, basically.
That leads
true.
to the sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying that it's really true to, you know, taking breaks is probably the best way to solve a problem. If you're
Exactly.
stuck, do something else, switch to a different thing to work on, or go for that walk, or go grab a cup of coffee or tea or whatever. But your mind will keep working on it in the background on a different thread, and all of a sudden it's solved. So yeah, very good advice.
I kind of do that without actually planning for it, but I make games usually on my free time. Usually work very early, and then I have parts of the day that have other commitments. But when I'm stuck developing anything, anytime that I leave, I'll take the car, I have to go to the supermarket, whatever. While I'm driving or at the supermarket or coming back, the idea is to really fix the things. I usually come at the time that I'm not like entirely focusing on development. So I think it's really, really important to try to to try to think about something else if you're entirely like completely stuck, and also reach out to the Discord community if you can't figure out. Talking about Discord community, a quick thing. Since the chat is disabled, and we are struggling a little bit to make that work, we can actually ask the questions on Discord. I think everybody is on the Jam channel. If you're not, there is a link here on the description of this video. Please click at the very bottom. There is gamejamplus.com, and join there, and please join the Discord community to make the questions while we are working on the chat. Okay, I think the best chat for that is the Defold team, so everybody's already on the same page, and we can take the questions from there. Oh, a second. While we are working on the YouTube chat. Oh no, sorry. Never mind. Sorry for that. We just figured that out and it's working. You just have to reload the page. If you can't see the chat, please just reload and you will see the chat. It's working right now. So, okay. So going back to what to do if you're stuck. We were just talking about taking a break, checking some other things. Something that also helped other jammers on the previous jam that I saw people commenting about. There are some really nice YouTube videos. You just look for Game Jam behind the scenes, and you will see like a ton of videos, like so many videos about how people worked on game jams in the past, and I think that's super inspirational. What do you guys think?
Yeah, one of the other, so the YouTube videos like that are great. One of the other things you can do is play games from previous jams. So I think, do we have the on the CrazyGames jam? Do we have a? I don't think we have any links actually. So a lot of the jams I run are on itch. You can find bigger
you can
game
find
jams
directly
on
CrazyGames.
Yeah. Yeah, so
you can go to each or any other platform and ask
yeah,
and check
it
those
has
like other
yeah,
games to just understand the scope. It's important to check also the length of the jam if possible.
yes.
Just make sure you're not looking for a game like our last jam was 10 minutes long, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit different from that.
The Game Maker's Toolkit Jam might be a good one to look at, because they're typically 48 hours. They've increased to 96 last year and are doing that again this year. But the Game Maker's Toolkit Jam, there's a lot of games entered into there. I think 8,000 last year. That will be the right scope. And if you sort it randomly, don't just look at the really good ones. Don't just look at the really popular ones. Like, just sort it randomly. Pick a few that catch your eye. Give them a couple of minutes. You don't really want your game to be much longer than 5 minutes long, because once you get past once you hit 5 minutes, you're then doing a lot of content, and content is the thing that's going to take you the most time. And you want the first bit of your game to be the best bit of your game, basically. So basically you hook people immediately, and you want to be spending the most time on that first bit of your game.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I think we can pass the word to Björn to talk a little bit more about Defold.
Yeah, I would also like to just tie into what to do if you're stuck, because if you're stuck more on like a technical problem, which might be the case if you're new to Defold as well, then there's obviously many ways to get help, but asking questions. I mean, if you're stuck, it's better to ask one question too many. There's usually other jammers in the same situation. Hopefully they're friendly and helpful. You can also reach out, definitely on the Game Jam Discord, of course, but we also have a Defold Discord, which is linked somewhere. Everton will tell you where. It's just go to defold.com/Discord. There's a bunch of active Defold developers. Many of them are participating in the Jam, but others hang out or work on their own projects. And if you get stuck on a technical problem, then ask a question. Don't try to solve it yourself. If you're new to Defold, at least, then better to ask questions early, so you don't fail because of technical problems.
Or lack of knowledge or anything like that. Right?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of friendly people ready to help if you get stuck. And also, like what we said about looking at other games for inspiration, you can also look at defold.com/examples to see like minimal examples of various kinds of mechanics or things like that. And we'll also share a list. We have some open source games that you can look at for learning how to do a specific thing in Defold.
Yeah, we have a few links as well on the documentation. So
perfect. Yeah. And I think what moving on to the next topic, what you said, Everton, about what makes Defold work well for web games is, first of all, that even though it's a cross-platform game engine, we've always focused on having a very small core engine. It's both a boon and a bane, I suppose. It's great because the engine and the build pipeline and all of that is very streamlined for size. So you have your game up and running in your browser or as a local build on your host machine in usually less than a second. It's really fast to start your game, which will really help with like the iteration cycle, being able to quickly iterate on something and not be blocked by build delays or anything like that. So that's a good thing. We also have a hot reload feature. So if you have your game running as a host game, like a Windows or Mac OS or Linux version, that's just doing like the command B to have it up and running. Then while the game is running, you can do changes to your content and press command R instead to reload. Then any changes will immediately pop up in your game as the game is running. So that's a nice way of iterating on things. And it works for content, it works for code, it works for shaders, the render script. You can hot reload basically anything. So that's also a way
amazing
to very quickly iterate on content or an effect or like the mechanics of your game. And for your game logic, you will get like a callback to this game script was reloaded, and then you can reset or tweak things. So that's super powerful and really good to know and to use while working on your game.
When I first tried Defold, that was the thing that actually struck me the most, because on other engines, sometimes clicking the test button takes longer than building and testing on Defold. That was like
that's true. No, and one thing is that we package everything you need to build your game for any platform. So you should only have to download Defold or the command line tools if you want to work in the CI environment. But that's not really the case for a game jam, of course. Then you probably only want to use the editor, which runs on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And from there, you can build without having to install anything. You don't need any additional tooling to get started. So yeah, the initial download of the editor is maybe a bit larger, but then you have everything ready for you to build for any platform. And it's also good to know that there's basically, I mean, you should, of course, always test on your target platform. So if you're doing a web game, you should do the build for web option. But for the general purpose working with the game, you should only probably do like Command B to build like a native running build. And there's no real difference between the platforms. So if your game works on your desktop PC, it should work without problems on the web or on mobile. So really, it's really properly cross-platform without any big differences. Basically, you have some extras on the web, for instance. So from the scripting, you can call into and execute Java code as well, but that's probably not something you need in this case. And
awesome. We received a question on YouTube actually about that. Do I need anything? Do I need to install anything special to export?
No. So if you download from default,
works out of the box.
Download, pick your OS. Then once you have the editor, I'm saying installed, but it's basically just download and unpack. And then once you run the editor, you get to a welcome screen where you can pick a project template. You can start with an empty project or from like an example, and then you can do Command B to build for your host platform, or you can do a project build for web, and you have it up and running in your default browser. So no extra installs at all.
Awesome. The second question about Defold is also: is there anything I should be aware to make a web game on Defold? Anything that doesn't work specifically on web? We know that.
No. So all of the APIs are the same.
Shaders.
Yeah. So we can compile to. Well, I mean, if you do if you rely on some OpenGL specific functionality and then try to we will do cross compilation to the extent that it's possible. But really, you shouldn't. Probably for a game jam, it's overkill to start messing with shaders. I mean, you could, but probably not what you should focus on. So yeah, no. If it runs on your desktop PC, then it should also work on the web.
All right, fantastic. Okay, well, awesome. Any extra tips we can give the jammers? I quickly wrote on our Discord channel about preparing the specific game frame, and that actually comes also with a question that asked it. Artyom, sorry if I butchered your name. If it's needed to upload the game to CrazyGames developer dashboard, yes, you will need to upload it, and you can test the game there as well. So that's why I actually wrote on the Discord channel earlier about our game frame, because it's really important to make sure that the game works. You can already experiment doing that right now, even before the jam starts, like setting up a project, exporting, even if it's like the most basic, just UI and things like that, to check if it looks good on our game frame, because our game frame has a different size. It's 922 by 487. So just make sure that the game works on that resolution. And then you can export the build, prepare everything, and then upload to CrazyGames, where you will have a link to preview the game, and you can also share that link with other people. Just make sure that everything's working. So prepare that beforehand, you know.
I'd really recommend by the end of the first day getting a build up on CrazyGames, make sure it works, maybe send it to a couple of people, maybe post it in the Discord, let people have a go, because other people playing a game is going to be the best way to improve it. Basically, other people know what they like, and at the end of the day, your game is going to be played by other people. So
exactly.
It's a good point. And also, like, there's, if you look at basically any game jam on itch.io, there's these last minute submissions that will fail for some reason because you have never tested like submitting it and seeing that it's in the right place. So what you say, Dom, is very good advice. Make sure to build just like the basic skeleton of your project and upload it to the CrazyGames dashboard just to validate that it actually runs.
Yeah.
So you don't have to get super stressed like 10 minutes deadline.
There's also a Jammers guide just talking quickly about the actual submission, because you have to submit kind of twice. You have first to upload the build to CrazyGames to get a preview link. That is also the link that the judges will play, and then submit on the website of the game jam, where the actual the submission, the registration on the Game Jam Plus website happens. So make sure that you're copying the correct link. I know it's a silly question, but we saw a couple of games on the previous jam that actually people copied the wrong link, and then judges couldn't play the game just because it wasn't playable, you know. So make sure that you check everything, and to do that, you actually need to do that with some time, as Björn said. Don't leave it to the last second, especially because you can, on CrazyGames, you can change the files until the end of the jam. You can actually delete the old files and send new ones, but the preview link remains the same. So people will be able to test the most updated version of your game, you know. So even if you submit the game like 3 hours earlier, but you made a few improvements the last hour, just make sure it's playable. Always test it before copying sending the last build, but you can still do it, okay, until the end of the jam. All right, I think we can go to what is a successful game on CrazyGames, which is actually a quite tricky question, because we usually say that pretty much everything can do well on the platform. We have games that range a lot on type of gameplay, on length, and everything. We see even some more mid-core, some more like niche games doing very well. So it's a very broad question, but I think a few pointers help getting everybody started. Since it's a game jam, and the judges will have to play quite a few games, and the platform is actually focused a little bit more on teenager players. Try making a game that has a snackable play session. As Dom said before, think about making the first 5 minutes amazing, and you can iterate on that a little bit later, once you have the initial part of the game working really, really well. I don't know if Dom wants to talk a little bit about the successful games on CrazyGames part as well.
I think you've covered most of what I'd say. I mean, your game with Defold is going to load pretty quickly because the builds are pretty small. So that's the main thing, really, isn't it? With web games, you want to get people playing.
That's not going to be a problem. You know, you're not making 100 megabyte games that people will wait for 5 to 10 minutes to load. You know, so make sure that the game loads fast. That is pretty much that's pretty much done already.
Yeah.
But make sure that also the players are playing very fast. You know,
Yes.
try to avoid like very long tutorials.
You
Things
want
that
your
will. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
ideally you want the player to be able to pick up what they're doing immediately. So you can rely a lot on kind of typical game stuff. So you know, space button jumps, that sort of thing. Don't make your controls too complicated, because that just increases the friction and more players are likely to leave if that happens. If they can't figure out what's going on straight away, then they're likely to leave.
Exactly. Remember that the only way to explain the game will be inside the game. You can't submit like a huge text on how to play the game or anything like that. So try to make, even if we know it's time consuming to make a good tutorial, but make sure that the players can play immediately. If you're not sure about that, again, share with the Discord community, share the link with your friends, family, whoever you think that might be a good target to testing things out, you know, because
I often make it so you can't continue unless you've done the thing. So if it's a platformer and you've got a grappling hook, is an example I quite like to use. But I will make it so the first thing you have to do is get over something with a grappling hook. That way, the player immediately knows what to do. You might put a bit of text in the background to say, press this button to use your grappling hook. But yeah, I tend to make the first obstacle something you can't pass unless you've basically pressed the right button.
Yeah, make sure that it's playable and exploring a little bit more for our audience. As I said, our audience are mostly, they're not only teenagers, but they're mostly like more than half of them are teenagers, like very young. So think that they are something that I like to use as an example when it's talking about our audience and making games for CrazyGames, is that the audience is a little bit impatient. You know, they want to quickly play, they want to load quickly and start playing already. You know, they don't want to sit there, wait, read, then go through the tutorial, then learn the controls. They just want to click play and start moving around. That's why usually more casual, more faster sessions tend to do better on the platform. As I said, it's a little bit of a general thing, as we do have some mid-core games that are made for playing like 30, 40 minutes. But those are like a little bit more niche, a little bit more targeted to a specific audience, not the broad appeal that that these games should be a little bit more about. We also have a few tips on the Jammers manual about how we're going to judge the game. So make sure to check, read through that list, just to ensure that your game fits the overall. And passing to what doesn't work well, it's pretty much the opposite of that.
Can I just jump in first, Everton?
Sorry. Sorry.
One thing, since we've mentioned many times that the game should load fast and Defold is small and will load fast, and that's obviously true. I mean, we've focused a lot on making a small engine, but if you put in a lot of large content, it won't really help, because yeah, the engine loads fast, but you have 100 megabytes of high resolution textures or uncompressed audio or something. So as a developer, you obviously still have to pay attention to what kind of game assets you use, and there's a lot of tricks to optimizing. For size, of course, we have texture compression available, so you can compress textures, but you should also, of course, think about the size of the textures or images you use in your game. When it comes to sound, you should, of course, use a compressed format, maybe for when when that makes sense. Maybe convert from stereo to mono sound. There's a bunch of tricks that you can do to optimize, and we have a manual specifically around like optimizing the game for performance or size. So defold.com/manuals/optimizations, I think it is. So yes, pay attention, be mindful of the assets you create, because you can, of course, make a game load slowly if you have a lot of content to load.
Yeah, definitely. We actually see a lot of games being uploaded with like 2K, 4K textures. And as I said before, it's a very reduced game frame, 922 by 487. it's quite small. So even if you are using the best textures there, most of it will be wasted because the resolution is going to be a little bit weird anyway. So just
But also for a game jam, sure, you want your players to play the game. So if it takes a long time to load, that's obviously not great. But if you go beyond the game jam and actually do this as a professional project that you intend to release on CrazyGames, then you can do a lot of additional optimization before the relaunch. So maybe not focus too much on size for a game jam, but still be mindful of, okay, this is a web game and not everyone has super fast internet connection. So be mindful of it, but you can of course optimize then later for public launch.
Definitely. All right, well, jumping to what doesn't work, we briefly said about that. And well, other than what we already said, like slow starts and like hard tutorials and things like that, I also like to mention that games that are based too much on texts don't tend to be extremely popular. I'm not saying like games with words, because those are popular. It's funny, but I'm saying like talking a little bit more like story-driven games, like where you are look at an image, then there is a big text, and then you're reading a story about something, and then you have to make decisions. Those games that are like super slow, we saw that they are a little bit harder to be successful, especially because they are a little bit more niche. We have a few games live on the platform, and they have like crazy high play times. Usually people play until the end of the game, but it's not appealing to all our players. Sometimes, you see that some players will just open it, load, wait for, try it for like 30 seconds, and no action or something like that, and then they drop. So I would try to avoid that. I think it's pretty much the only thing that I remember that I don't remember seeing a popular game on CrazyGames. And I play pretty much all games on CrazyGames. So
would you say that like if I as a developer go to crazygames.com and look at, for instance, the trending now or like the main page that's presented to me, I can assume that those are titles with a good fit for the platform and for the player base?
Yeah, definitely. Amazing question. That's exactly what we recommend developers to do, because our platform is optimized for popularity. So what you see on the CrazyGames is what you see on the front page is what's popular on CrazyGames. So definitely look at the first page, especially the first games on each category, because you see that we have a few carousels like racing, shooters, action, things like that. But the first games are the most popular ones on that category. So definitely look at specific categories. I recommend looking also if you see something that is somewhat similar to your ideas, because we have like more than 4,000 games. We can also filter games based on tags. So if you just look for a tag, I don't know, escape room, whatever, on the search bar, you can also search for games that fit that kind of gameplay. And the tag is also filtered by popularity, so you can kind of see specifically what does well, what is trending. As Björn said, there is also a trending specific page on the left menu, so you can see that. And definitely just checking the CrazyGames homepage. It's a fantastic source for games. We just received a question from 171dev. Should we make our games compatible, mobile compatible for the jam? No, definitely not. If you do that, it's a bonus, but it's actually not required. Most of CrazyGames' audience is on PC, roughly 75% of them. So that is also how the judges will play your game. So make sure that the game is actually playable on PC. If it's playable on mobile as well, it's a bonus, but it's not going to be judged based on that.
It's a good question. So focusing on like keyboard and mouse input rather than touch, then.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. You can also do any kind of crazy things you want with the controls, but make sure that it's playable with mouse and keyboard.
By the way, do you know the percentage of your players that play with an actual controller? Do you have statistics?
No, unfortunately, we don't, because we don't track that. We received this question some time ago. We actually have like a tag for, I think, controllers or games with controllers or something like that.
Okay.
Because we do like filter games that do support controllers, but we don't control how many are played.
Yeah, I suppose like keyboard is like kids playing on Chromebooks at school, for instance. That's probably
exactly
a majority.
That's a big chunk of players. Yeah. Definitely. All right, there is another question about mobile here. So from Artian, again, sorry if I butcher your name. Do we have to optimize for mobile devices right away, controls and so on, or can we submit a desktop-only version? Well, that's what we just talked about. So yeah, definitely no. Just go for the desktop-only version and forget about mobile if you're short in time. But if you already have some experience and can do that quickly, for sure. Especially if you are planning to keep working on the game later on. CrazyGames has a big audience also on mobile, so that will be helpful down the line, you know.
I can also add just very, very quickly that like mouse and touch input is basically the same in default. So there's basically a one-to-one mapping. So if your game supports mouse, it should also support like single touch events. Then we have multi-touch also, but that's probably overkill for Jam. So yeah.
Oh, right, fantastic. Great to hear.
There was another question, I think. I missed
Yeah,
it.
we have another question. Let's from Mortadella.
Oh.
The FAQ doesn't say anything about AI. Yes, AI is allowed. Just make sure that you write whatever you made with AI as whatever on credits or things like that, because you can use AI. You can also use external assets. If you don't make the art, no problem. If you don't make the music, no problem. Just make sure that you're using assets that you can use and credit them, you know. So yeah, definitely. You can use AI for writing code or making art or anything like that. Okay. Well, I think for the questions, we pretty much replied to everybody. Well, yeah. Do you guys have any final remarks to tell the developers before we wrap?
I think one of the other things that you probably want to watch out for is really large 3D scenes. They're probably not going to work as well, just because there are some kind of performance limitations on the web. It's single-threaded. It's so particularly large complex scenes, you're probably not going to be doing that in a jam. But if you're thinking, I can just throw a load of models in, that's probably not gonna work so well.
Yeah, we're also quite picky about the format, so we support the GLTF, GLB format, and a bit specific about stuff. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can make a 3D game, but you also have to pay a bit more attention to the content you throw at Defold.
All right, got it. I saw another question from our Discord actually. If developers have to integrate the SDK, no. The answer is actually no. You don't have to integrate the SDK for the Gem version. Of course, if your game is one of the winners and you get selected, then yes, you have to integrate the SDK for publishing the game on CrazyGames, but not for the Gem. Okay, so that also saves you some time. I recommend playing around a little bit. Some things are helpful, like automatically setting the name of the player, fetching our user module, and it's pretty easy to use as well. So not required, but if you integrate it, Awesome. And let me just check if there was any other questions. No. Oh yeah, and ad breaks as well. Yeah, no, definitely. You can skip that part and skip the ads for now. You can even leave like blank spaces if you're thinking about, oh, this is a nice place for an ad. Just leave a quick like 2-second loading, like this would be an ad or whatever, and the judges will understand that. Also because the games will be judged on potential, like commercial potential or monetization or something like that. It's on the Jammer's manual, so make sure to introduce places where could be ads, but you don't have to actually call the ads, okay? There is another question from Andre Alay. Is there a resource that explains how to use messages and response messages? I do struggle a bit with how to write the algorithm that uses them.
Okay, so I suppose the user is asking about the message passing system in Defold. Message passing is a way to decouple objects in Defold. So you can send one message from a script to another script. A typical example is you detect a collision. So you collide with a coin, for instance, in your game. That will end up as a message coming from the physics system to your script. You react to picking up the coin by maybe deleting it, and then you want to add to a score counter or something. And that's a good use case for sending a message. You send a message to your UI, say increase the score by this number. But this user asks about messages and response, and then there seems to be more of a strong coupling between I send a message, I expect a reply back. And I would say that you shouldn't try to, I mean, we're talking about the game jam game now, and you will probably not have many scripts that need to interact. It's should be fairly, I mean, you could basically write your entire game in a script with some additional Lua modules. I'd be happy to elaborate on Discord about this and how to think about structuring your game. And I'm also happy, I will show some examples of games made in Defold where you have very little message passing at all. And it's a totally viable option.
Awesome. So Andrea also asked about resources. So that's those games that you mentioned would be like what we can do. All right, fantastic. We can take that to Discord then to elaborate. All right, yeah. So from Matt in the background running the show. Any advice for jammers using Defold for the first time?
Well, I would say that you should start right now to get familiar with Defold. Don't wait until Friday. I would say that you download Defold, you open Defold, at the welcome screen, you pick one of the tutorials. So there's a tab for tutorials, and there's a few you can choose from, and they will give you step-by-step introduction to Defold. I would also say, look at our manuals. I know it's a lot of text, but if you learn by reading, then we have a good set of manuals that are always up to date. If you're not the reading kind of person, there's a bunch of good YouTube tutorials as well to get you started. If you go to defold.com/learn and scroll to videos or tutorials, there's a bunch of visual learning material as well. So start small, just get something up and running, like one of the sample projects, or open any of the examples. If you go to defold.com/examples, we have like, I don't know, 50 different kinds of examples. Each of them can be downloaded as individual tiny Defold projects that you can open and play around with. So that might also be a good way to get started. Start with a basic example. There's one like a movement example with a spaceship, or one where you shoot bullets, and then try to combine those and then build something step by step. Don't start too big. And finally, as we said initially as well, ask questions if you get stuck. There's a lot of people to help you.
Definitely. We received another question. if there are any quality of life features that would be good to implement, not only for web, I would say. And yes, I do think there are some things that are quite, I won't say like necessary, but quite obvious, and that I don't see many games actually introducing them. Just a simple pause button. It's ridiculously simple, but I think it's super helpful. Especially if it's like a little bit more fast-paced game, then it's super important. Even if yes, if you're just sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and in Defold you can get a callback when the game is put in the background. So when you switch tab, basically, and when you come back, and if it's a fast-paced game, you should start with a pause button, or like some kind of the game should start in a paused state, so you can resume it.
And breathe before.
Yeah.
Sorry,
if you've got time at the end, or you're stuck for an idea and want somewhere to start, a volume slider. I always really appreciate games that have a volume slider.
I was going to say that, or a mute button.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a mute button or a volume slider. One thing that is important to consider for the web is something that it's not that well known, but we do have in our documentation. I actually skip it that part, but make sure to check CrazyGames quality guidelines, just for general things, like for example, avoiding the control button. It's a bit of a weird thing because, well, control is super common in games, but in most browsers, if you actually press Control W, it will close the tab. And if you're using a game, if you have a game that you use WASD to move, and we saw a lot of like first-person shooters where control is like crouching, and then people try to crouch and move forward, and boom, close the game. It's a stupid thing, but just make sure to check at least this hotkey. I'm sure that there may be more. I think this will be the last question from Adam. Can we run UNI animations while the game speed is set to 0?
All right, so that's when you have like set the time step, like when you do a slowdown or speed up effect, or actually pause all animations, then the UI animations will probably not run either. That's my guess, at least. I would have to try it to be sure, but anything that's loaded from the we have a concept of collections. If you pause a collection, anything that's part of the collection will then be affected by the time step, the pause function or the speed up function. So things will move faster or slower, and that also includes UI animations. But yeah, I'm 99% sure. I'd have to.
You can make sure. Well, you can ask that question on Discord, and then we elaborate a little bit more. I think it's time to wrap up. It was amazing. Dom, if you have any last questions any last recommendations for our jammers?
Big 3, scope small, look after yourself, and plan for the time you have. So if you take anything away, scope small, look after yourself, plan for the time you have, and you'll do well.
Amazing. Björn, if you have some last recommendations, and also if you can share your social, Defold website tutorials. We already talked a little bit about them, but please.
Yeah, sure. So my advice would be ask questions if you're stuck on technical things. We're happy to help you. Have fun, and see this as a learning experience. You might not end up with the game you had envisioned, but I'm sure you will end up with something, and you will for sure have learned something. So yeah, working under tight time constraints is a challenge, but it can also be very fun and very rewarding, and I'm sure everyone will learn by trying.
Yeah, amazing. Yes, and please reach out to us on Discord. Me and Björn actually be live during most of the time of the jam, so please hit us up there, whatever question you might have. And again, yes, make sure you're having fun during the jam. I think that's one of the most important things. It was amazing having this warm-up with you guys. Please keep tuned. On Friday at 4 p.m., the Jam theme will be announced. And yeah, well, looking forward to play everybody's games. Have a great one. Cheers.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.